Hello again. If you guys don't remember me, I'm Stephanie Romine. I would like to know how many of you have owned a dog. Well, if you're here to answer me, I bet a lot of you would say that you previously or currently own one. Now let me ask you dog owners, how many of you have owned a pit bull? I bet the answer is a whole lot less, if any of you. But why is that? Maybe it's because the media solely focuses on horror stories of pit bull attacks instead of stories like Baby. So Baby was a 10-year-old pit bull that saved her family from a house fire. This dog barked incessantly and pounced on her owner's bed until they woke up and safely escaped the house. The owners had 5 other dogs, excluding Baby, so when only 4 came out of the house, Baby proved her heroism even more by going back into the burning house, finding the last dog stuck under a bed, and dragged it out to safety. So, keeping that story in mind, my plan is to show people that it's the owner's actions, not the breed, that causes aggression. And I feel like I know a little bit about this. I own a pit bull mix. His name is Bear, and this is him. As you can see, he's a really big goofball, and the only thing he has ever attacked is a pillow. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go over this breed's history, how dogfighting has affected society's view on pit bulls, how the environment plays an impact in dogs' behavior, and I'm going to give you some specific ways to avoid raising an aggressive pit bull. So I know we've all heard the slogan, "Don't bully my breed." With the information I give you today, I hope you can fully understand and sympathize with this statement. So, pit bulls are actually a crossbreed of terriers and bulldogs. They were originally created in the 1800s as working dogs. Dogfighting was becoming popular in Europe about that time, so pit bulls unfortunately became a prime choice for that. But as more people started to immigrate to America with their families, they brought these pit bulls, and the value of the dog began to change. They're no longer valued for fighting, but as farm help and protectors. So the United Kennel Club actually gave the pit bulls the nickname nanny dogs, and they held that title for about 114 years. They got the nickname since young children were often entrusted solely in this dog's care. As America grew, so did the love for pit bulls. They soon became seen as the nation's unofficial national dog. They were featured in magazines, advertisements, even propaganda as the all-American dog. So the show The Little Rascals had a pit bull as part of their gang, and historical figures like Helen Keller and Theodore Roosevelt owned these faithful companions. Pit bulls kept their friendly, loving reputation for a really long time, all the way up until the 80s, and then practically overnight they became seen as bloodthirsty monsters and are still widely seen that way today. What changed our perception of this dog that we once called America's sweetheart was the change in owners, not the breed. So dogfighting's popularity resurged here in the US from the 1980s to the early 1990s. People seem to be drawn to it from the gambling aspect and the false sense of machoism they received in attending or partaking in these events. So unfortunately, once again, pit bulls became a prime candidate for these fights because of their muscular physique and their trademark loyalty. This led them then to only be associated with gangsters, poverty, and crime. When I was researching dogfighting, I found the most information on Michael Vick, since he recently partook in this animal cruelty. So to train these dogs, he would have them conditioned for hours on treadmills, and to keep them running on those treadmills, he would literally get a stick with some meat, put it on the treadmill, so the dog just kept trying to run to the piece of meat. Most of the dogs were injected with performance-enhancing drugs and extremely underfed. They all lived in really hostile, dirty, just not good conditions. If the dogs did not perform up to par, whether it was in the fights or just in the conditioning, they were killed in really inhumane ways, such as drowning, hanging, electrocution, or even being beaten to death. So dogs don't get to choose their owners, unfortunately. So I'm pretty sure that if they did have a choice, they would not choose to be owned by people such as Michael Vick. They also, if they had a voice, I'm pretty sure that pit bulls would say, "Hey man, no thank you. I would not like to participate in this dog fight. I would not like to die fighting another dog, and I would not like to fight and kill another dog." So it's really disheartening for me to hear people say that these dogs don't deserve a place in society based on other people's actions. So most of the dogs that were recovered from Michael Vick have been rehabilitated successfully, which shows that the environment has a very big impact on a dog's behavior. So Cliff Notes actually describes nature versus nurtured as a psychology term related to whether hereditary or the environment most impacts psychological development. So on the nature side of it, every individual, including dogs, have a temperament. Temperament is genetic, and it is how you will react emotionally to a situation. So every breed goes through temperamental testing. Pit bulls, on average, scored 86.4%. So out of every single breed that there is, they came in second, only under golden retrievers. So I don't think it's really fair to still see them as being mean, vicious dogs when they scored so high on that temperament test. But temperament does not determine behavior, the environment does. If you raise a dog in a loving, happy environment, they're more likely to be loving and happy as well. And same goes if you raise a dog in an aggressive, hostile conditions, they're going to turn out to be a mean dog. And I feel like Michael Vick's dogs are a really good example of this. They went from being in fights to family dogs in a very short period of time. So, one really easy way to avoid raising an aggressive pit bull is to have them spayed or neutered. It is a fact that neutered male dogs are calmer, easier to control, and generally less aggressive than non neutered males. So, and when you have your dog spayed or neutered, you're more likely to take them out in public, which helps with socialization, which is also really important. They learn how to play nicely with other dogs, how to behave around other humans and in public, and they learn how to cope and deal with new situations, new surroundings, and new people. Another really big one is training your dog. So, aggression is actually a learned behavior. So, you as an owner ultimately decide whether your dog has the opportunity to react or rehearse aggressive behavior. I feel like the public is just really misinformed or underinformed about this breed. So maybe just sharing some of the information I gave you today can really help change our view of this breed. There's an overwhelming amount of Pitbull and Pitbull mixes in shelter, so if you're ever looking for a dog, maybe consider adopting one of those like I did. It was a really good decision. So I spoke with you today about this breed's history, how dogfighting has affected our view of pit bulls, how the environment plays a really big impact on a dog's behavior, and I gave you some easy ways to avoid raising an aggressive pit bull. So I hope I shed some new light on this breed, maybe change your perception of them a little bit. I have some other pictures to show you. This is a friend's dog, and he is a blue-nosed pit bull, and by these two pictures you can see that he is just an extreme cuddle bug. He is not vicious at all. And the white dog in this picture is a pit bull, and as you can see, gets along very well with other dogs. So I just feel like pit bulls are taking the brunt for irresponsible ownership, and I don't feel like the whole breed should be punished for that. So I really appreciate you guys listening to me today, and remember, don't bully my breed.